to AC 24/7, I'm Aaron Dean. Atlanta police have arrested a man who they say went to a medical appointment with his mother, became upset, and started shooting. Officials say one person is dead, 4 others were taken to the hospital. The Advocate Channel's Ivan Rodriguez is in Atlanta with what he's learning about this latest mass shooting.
An hours-long manhunt is now over in Georgia for a suspect who police say opened fire at an Atlanta hospital medical office.
I am pleased to share with you that thanks to our strong partnership with Cobb County Police Department, law enforcement have taken the suspect into custody.
Police say the suspected shooter, whom they identify as 24-year-old Dion Patterson, was a patient going to an appointment for himself with his mother. Police say Patterson's mother is cooperating with investigators. A source tells CNN Patterson, who has a military background, became agitated and started shooting. Atlanta police believe he carjacked the vehicle and drove north into nearby Cobb County, where the search expanded. Cobb police say they spotted the car Patterson allegedly carjacked on license plate recognition cameras in the area, as well as Patterson himself.
We did spot what appeared to be a suspect in this area, which is why we have such a heavy presence. This was a couple hours after the incident.
A Grady Hospital spokesperson says 3 patients are in the ICU while a 4th victim is in stable condition. I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
There were audible gasps in the Florida House chamber this week in response to a GOP lawmaker's speech about terrorists, the GOP, and the LGBTQ community.
Our terrorist enemies hate homosexuals more than we do. They're the ones who discriminate.
That's Florida State Representative Jeff Holcomb asking his colleagues to vote in favor of a bill urging Congress to restore the military's war-fighting ethos and rid it of, quote, woke social engineering and experimentation practices. But his remarks drew gasps and disturbed looks on some lawmakers' faces. Social media is also reacting. For more on this story, visit advocate.com for additional reactions to his comments. A Mississippi man is facing charges for threatening to kill a U.S. senator. The FBI says that William Sappington went looking for GOP Senator Roger Wicker last week. The court documents reveal Sappington said, quote, "You tell him I'm going to kill him and that he knows why he was there." Sappington later denied making that comment. He was previously arrested in 2014 for aggravated assault against his brother. Sappington is being held in jail pending trial. And switching gears, if you're concerned about the safety of your money in the bank, well, you're not alone. According to a new Gallup poll, nearly half of Americans say that they are concerned about the money they have in financial institutions. 19% are very worried. Another 29% are moderately worried. Despite a string of bank failures in recent weeks, U.S. officials say that the industry overall remains strong. And say it with me, may the 4th be with you. For Star Wars fans, May 4th has become a day to celebrate the ever-expanding world of Star Wars. It's a play on Of the Jedi greeting, May the Force be with you. This year, Disney is releasing the 2nd season of the Star Wars Visions series. It's a collection of short films from different animation studios around the world. And for music lovers, Spotify has a special channel for fans of the music. Also this year, the late Carrie Fisher, who played Princess Leia, received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Fisher died in 2016. According to a new study, in the first 2 weeks of 2023, over 100 bills targeting LGBTQ+ populations were filed across 22 states. Some of the bills seek to ban transgender students from competing on sports teams that align with their gender identities, while others restrict access to gender-affirming care and target elements of queer culture like drag performances. Today, we are joined by Miles Davis Matthews, who has published a report called Fading Rainbows, a case for bolstering social infrastructure in the rural queer South. Miles, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I just want to jump right on into this. What made you want to explore this specific topic?
Yeah, so I am from Washington, D.C., big city kid. And when I went to undergrad, I moved to a rural town in Pennsylvania. And the experience of queerness that I saw up there and experienced myself was so different from everything that I had in DC. You know, I had easy access to healthcare providers that were trans affirming, and I was able to get access to hormones and things like that really, really easily. But when I was up in that rural town, I found that not only were my trans peers like not having access to gender affirming anything, but that there was very little social space that was available for just queer people to communicate and come together. And so I wanted with this report to explore a little bit more about, you know, what social space looks like for queer people in the South and in rural areas specifically.
And throughout your research and time putting this all together, what would you say are some of the key findings that we can see in this report?
I think there are maybe 4 big pieces that we can take away from this research. First and foremost being that LGBTQ people value having access to queer space and think it's important. It's important for developing community, developing relationships, finding resources, things like that.
That was one of the points that I was going to bring up. We see in this report where, LGBTQ plus people who are 65 and older say they don't feel a part of their community and sometimes don't feel safe. What do you think the difference is in between generations, where you have younger members of the community who say that they feel loved and accepted and they're out to their friends, but you have older members that don't necessarily feel that way? What do you think it is?
I think it could be a combination of things, honestly. When you look at historical experiences of, just homophobia, transphobia, things were not the same in the 50s and the 60s. And so a lot of our parents and grandparents grew up in times where being queer was dangerous, was not acceptable at all. And I think for Black queer people especially, you have a lot of the fear that's embedded in around like religiosity and the church. I think also just thinking about who we're interacting with on a regular basis. Younger people are interacting with their peers, and their peers tend to be more acceptable and steeped in the same kind of social culture that is more accepting. Whereas older people, they're engaging with other older people who had the same, sometimes bigoted beliefs. And many elderly LGBTQ people have not decided to come out, even when they've had the opportunity to, because of that fear from past discrimination experiences and violence.
And of course, within this report, you list 3 different policy recommendations, and those include protect and develop local social infrastructure in rural areas, support anti-discrimination efforts, expand research and data collection. Now, with these 3 points, how can we make these points reality?
First and foremost, just being engaged with your community. We have come into a very isolationist kind of world, I think, in part because just that's how America is, and also in part because COVID. But finding ways to get re-engaged with your community, be that by going to town halls, or, if you have any local Facebook pages where you're engaging with, your local government officials, like just finding ways to engage in that way is important. Also volunteering with local organizations that support LGBTQ people, be that at the library or at a community center. And I mean, I think just as people, we can do more research on our own. We can be more curious, ask more questions, and demand more from the people who, are supposed to be serving us, our public servants. And that can look like just talking to your senator, sending an email.
And so kind of tell us, like, what's next for you and this research that you've provided? What do you hope people can gain by reading this document?
So I guess I'll start in reverse order. I hope what people take from this is, one, that rural America is not this dead land for queer people. Like, we are out there, we exist, we are not necessarily suffering en masse the way that I think some media would make you believe. And that there's safety there for us, so long as we're building community and intentional about that. Also, I think people can take away the importance of supporting your local institutions. Libraries, cafes, local businesses, bars, things like that bring people together, they really do make a difference.
For more, go to theadvocatechannel.com and subscribe on our Advocate Channel YouTube page. Thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. I'm Aaron Dean.